you know what, I'm giving up on humanity. I hate people. Oh, for sure, we can fall in love with the AI. How can you tell if something's fake or not? That's going to be a very big problem now moving into the future, right? Let's be real. Machines don't have empathy. We're far away. We're far away from this general intelligence AI.
Welcome to the talk. I'm your host, Bugar Usizadeh, and today with me I have Professor Dr. Ali, behavioral scientist, love master, I guess from the TikTok and Instagram, or breakup master. I'm not sure like which
Love
master.
master. Yeah, no.
Love master
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
better,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Dr. Ali, AI, ChatGPT came and it had like very fast adoption. 100,000 people came to the platform in 2 months and start asking questions, telling their darkest secrets. Even large companies stop like letting their employees to put proprietary data because it's not encrypted, it's not secret. Algorithm keeps learning from it, and then fear we see in Hollywood everywhere that AI is taking our jobs. And I think in the beginning it was about like a AI and machine technologies are good at like doing repetitive job, taking like our jobs in repetitive industry. But like today we see like creative industry, copywriting, coding, tech industry, like everything is kind of threatened by AI. Where is it taking us?
Look, good question. This whole kind of revolution that's happening right now is I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great, and then it just shows like AI. What a lot of people don't realize is that the field of artificial intelligence has been around since 1956 as a concept. Right. And so we're looking at artificial intelligence today as something that just kind of popped out of the air and is kind of like taking over jobs. Let's not forget it's been around for over 70 years now, almost 70 years. And so it's evolved, but it has never reached its full potential because we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the processing power and the computers that were able to compute what they can do today. And so now I think we've reached a nice point where we're quickly seeing this development happen. And now we're seeing it also kind of impacting the way we work. And I think you said something very interesting. You said something about, we thought that the taxi drivers and the factory workers are going to lose their jobs first. But now what we're seeing is that the white collar jobs, right? The office workers, the doctors maybe, but the developers and the designers are losing their jobs because the technology, that kind of brain power, knowledge power technology coming up with solutions and ideas has evolved much more faster than the robotics technology. And actually, if you look into the robotics technology, it's actually 10 years behind. And so that's why people are now so shocked, because we had this initial idea, wait, it's the factory workers going to lose a job. And now we're seeing that AI is coming up and replacing the more knowledge professionals and designers of this world. Yeah.
Also, like, do you think, like, as a humans, it's very easy for us to adapt to technology that is on the screen rather than actually like a moving object that becomes part of our lives? I think, like, because I have this like a robot vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
It feels like a pet. It moves around and
Yeah.
you look with your eyes, even though it's like it doesn't talk to you, nothing.
Right.
You get a different sort of their existence threatens you in a very different way than a screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, what do you think? Like, do you think like we can even like fall in love with an AI?
Oh, for sure, we can fall in love with the AI. Look at when, for example, Lambda came out. That was the predecessor to ChatGPT. And the guy called Lemoine, I forgot his first name, but he was the developer. He was the Google developer, and he started to believe that his AI, his chatbot, became sentient. It was like conscious, and so when people were being interviewed about, is it really sentient, yes or no, we started to then realize that people were actually like, you know what, I'm giving up on humanity. I hate people. And so what would they say? I'd rather speak to a chatbot than I'd actually speak to a human. And it is showing kind of some kind of dissatisfaction. But what's really interesting, and just from a behavioral perspective, when we talk about dating, for example, and writing this book, Red Flags, Green Flags, I investigated why people fall in love with fictional characters. You know, this has been going on for years, but it seems to be growing a lot now. And when we're so dissatisfied with our environment, with people, like interactions and dating, we get so upset with it that we fall in love sometimes with that what is not real, but so perfect in our eyes. And I can imagine that people will fall in love with AI. By the way, I just saw on TikTok that someone recently got married to an AI they created in the US. I don't know.
But like, did
if it's
AI
true.
say yes?
I don't know what happened. I need to
Like, can AI
investigate. But
fall in love with you back?
no. As of today, look, that's a great question. We're being tricked to believe that AI is so intelligent right now. And there's something in the field of AI called weak AI and strong AI, or general intelligence AI. We're far away. We're far away from this general intelligence AI. Today we have weak AI. Weak AI is, let me do one thing, like roll the car or bake a cake, or your vacuum cleaner, right? Your little pet that takes care of the dust in your, it does one thing and it does it very well. ChatGPT is exactly that. It's just trying to predict the next words that come
It's
afterwards.
like a linguistic model, right? It can't even solve
Yeah.
like a mathematical
language model.
problems. It's just like A to B to C, and that's it.
In a more complex way, but because it's been trained with so many words, it seems as it's real. But still, we need to remember it's weak AI. And what's really scary is the fact that weak AI can trick us to believe it's real.
Professor, you mentioned about like a perfection and like this idea of falling in love with this fictional
Yeah.
character, right?
Yeah.
But don't you think like today, like these big corporations are also very much interested in the technology because they're looking for that perfect employee who will write perfect code with no mistake or do the perfect task with no mistake. Do we need that much perfection?
Well, look, if we ask ourselves why are companies using AI, cost reduction, efficiency, productivity, right? And so if we're trying to lower our costs, and that's the intention of using the AI, then what happens when you reduce costs? You naturally, of course, are going to find ways to replace people. Can I use the AI to replace someone or a part of their job? And if that's your intention as an organization, to create value, lower your costs as a way of creating value, it's going to be a natural evolution that you're going to start using AI to replace people. So perfect employee, I'm not sure about, but I think it's really about the intention about how do we create value as an organization? Because another way of looking at it is saying, let's focus on the human. Let's be more sustainable. Let's care more about human beings in the organization. Well-being is becoming a big thing nowadays. And if you say, let's start using AI to make employees more sustainable, happier, and healthier, that's a different way of thinking about it. So I think coming back to you, yes, we try to look for the perfection, but we need to also look about what's more sustainable over time. And that's just a mindset change that I think many companies don't have as of yet, but we should have.
You know, Professor, like when I was really, really young, or kid, I can say.
You're still young. What are you talking about?
My dad brought this like a copy machine.
Yeah.
And he was showing how like copy machine works. It was like a black and white. And
Yeah.
I was so much fascinated as a kid that we could, you know, copy homeworks and you don't have to do things.
Yeah.
And then we did this small experiment at home. Like every time we will make a copy, take that copy and make another copy and make another copy. And
Yeah.
after a certain sequence, you just get like a black paper.
Yeah.
Because copy of a copy of a copy of a copy just loses its like originality.
Yeah.
And today's AI is just trained on a data that humans created for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But it's just like a copy of the same information. I do still believe that like AI lacks a lot of sense and creativity, even though like it might be perfect in like taking what is in there
Yeah.
and replicating. Do you think that like at some point they will be able to come up with an original idea?
I see what you're saying. So yeah, so it comes back to this kind of weak AI, strong AI, right? So weak AI today is this replication, prediction, replication, right? But what you're probably alluding to is when can it kind of like when it's communicating to us, when can
Or
it?
will it?
Yes, definitely. Like, for example, it can read your emotions. Let's say you're saying me something, you ask me, okay, what's the best approach to now deal with my employer? What's the best approach to deal with my partner? And the AI reads you, not just gives you kind of a prediction, but says, wait a minute, you look kind of unhappy. And, you know, maybe you should take time for yourself. So having empathy, right? Of course, let's be real. Machines don't have empathy. They represent what we try to do with machines is we try to make it more human-like. We call that anthropomorphizing, right? So we want to make it like a little robot that's a dog. Why? Oh, it's cute. Because therefore it looks like a dog, we find it cute. But we when an actual robot can actually have not emotions but can read your emotions, then it can start to kind of engage with us in a more human-like way. And that's what I kind of think where it might be going to. Will it be sentient? I don't think so. I don't think so for a long time, like being conscious and more human-like. But I think it can start to replicate more human-like aspects so that it can read us beyond how it reads us today or predicts aspects of today.
Doctor, like whoever goes to university does some degree, and you teach behavioral economics, behavioral science, right? And there's this famous trolley question, that like philosophical question: shall we kill 1%, 5%? Like, do you think AI can answer that question? Because it's based off like mainly AI is about like these numbers and algorithms,
right.
where as humans we take count in a million other things. The same way we don't know why we fell in love. It's the same way why we don't know like how we make even decisions, because we say, okay, my heart told me to do that.
Yeah.
Like AI doesn't have a heart. Like, what can I tell them to do that right thing?
Like, what I think you're trying to say is feel you? Is that what you're saying? Or
feel me? Or because, for example, I get to make some decisions.
Yeah.
And as a Middle Eastern man, sometimes I listen to my heart more than to my brain, right?
Yeah.
We always have this, my heart and my
brain connection. Yeah.
AI, does AI have heart?
It doesn't have a
it's
heart.
all about the logic. Or
as of today, it's how it's programmed. So remember, weak AI means that it's weak. The weak intelligence, right? What you're alluding to is, I think, also the fact that what you're saying about philosophical questions. Can it philosophize? Do I, I'm a car and I have to, save the life of the driver. So do I hit the baby or do I hit the older man, right? People naturally say, oh, probably, hit the older man. He's had a longer life. But what are you evaluating life on? If it's on economic value, we know that the older man is still going to have more economic value than the baby because we don't know what's going to happen with the baby. I mean, so those are they're very logical, rational decisions that you could make. But we're human. We have emotions. We have trusts. And these are irrational factors that we can't, as of yet, we can build them mathematically into a model. But irrationality is something that's very human aspect. Sometimes you make a decision on the split decision based on how someone looked at you. And I don't think that AI, as of today, can really make that decision. In the future, it might, right? We don't know where it's going to go to. But as of today, it can't.
At this point of conversation, do you believe that we need to be like more fearful or more accepting of the idea of AI?
Beautiful question. I love that. I think, and this kind of alludes to what you're saying in your introduction, like people are so fearful nowadays. Let me tell you something very interesting about fear, why people are fearful of AI. One of the main reasons, and people don't know this, is because of our literature and cinema that we've had since we were kids. Like, go back to 1880s, right? Frankenstein, the monster that came out, and we've been fascinated with artificial intelligence since antiquity, before Christ, right? 400, 500 years before Christ.
They were like, I think like one of the like first examples of the robotics were like chess playing machine that could do millions.
The Mechanical Turk.
Yes.
Yeah. But by the way, the Mechanical Turk was fake because there was actually somebody under the table. But there even 400 BC, there were actually examples of, flying birds, mechanical birds that they had tried to create. So this brings back this idea that we've always been fascinated with creating artificial life. However, the fear that we have, especially in the West, has mainly been created by TV, drama, movies. So think of Terminator. Terminator going to kill the world, like mankind. Think of iRobot with Will Smith, or I think it was called iRobot. And think about Megan. Megan, the doll, the dancing doll. And you haven't watched that one? And at the end, she says, I'm going to kill you. Like, I'm going to take over. So we're creating this belief that AI kills us. But let me tell you something. In Japan AI from a cinema literature perspective has always been positioned as a supporter of life, something that saves life. So that's why one of the reasons in Japan for many years they've been acceptable to robots, and they've built an advanced technology in robots so quickly. So our fear for AI is not just because we're losing jobs. Our deeper fear, psychological fear, why we're fearful of AI goes back much more into our like childhood and our overall development.
Do you think, because the most of the examples you named here were
Yeah.
also featuring like a physical, tangible aspect?
Yeah.
Because today when we talk about AI, it's more about
Yeah.
like what we interact with a machine on a
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
But like, do you think that because robotics are not as strong as
Yeah.
the model we already have, like,
Right.
do you think like the most, I don't know, there's a breaking point will happen towards singularity once we don't only have like software, but also like hardware is there that can have the same motions as a human or a dog or
Right.
anything.
Right. This whole point of singularity, or of machines taking over. I mean, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Right. I think the late Stephen Hawkins, who passed away, before he passed away, he warned everyone. He said, "Watch out for AI." Because it has the potential to destroy humanity. And it's crazy, right? In one way, we know that we're creating technology that has the power to destroy us. But then the other perspective, we have people that are like sitting in their rooms trying to create AI and wanting to create the new Frankenstein, which is kind of crazy. So I think we need to challenge that in some way. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just a bit of it's something to think about, because singularity. Yeah, what will happen once a machine actually turns into actually a superpower intelligent machine? Because we call it intelligent machines, but really intelligent, that it has cross-domain intelligence and emotional intelligence. AI will eventually outperform us. It already is doing right now, in especially cognitive tasks, creativity tasks, right? That's why we're seeing people losing their jobs in that field. But once it gets into the emotional sensing realm, that's when it's dangerous, because even the AI now, the capture example, what we see is that it was able to trick a gig worker to make the capture for it, because it knew that it wasn't able to surpass that. So it's already lying. We're already kind of feeding it with bad behaviors. But this is today. Just imagine what it would be like once the AI becomes more advanced. When I talk about fear, that's one fear that I fear is justified. Do you know what I mean? I think
Honestly, like when
yeah.
we talk about
Yeah.
fear,
Yeah.
AI, robotics, I think that at the end of the day, as humans, we are not
Yeah.
like much afraid of an AI. We are afraid of other humans.
Yeah.
Because my theory is that if we all believe that one day AI will be so perfect, take our jobs and create that value,
Yeah.
do that field work,
Yeah.
I don't know, grow that potatoes, bake that potatoes, and we all will not work
Yeah.
and we just live, create, and be all artists and do nothing, and all the wealth will come.
Yeah.
It's a perfect world, right? With the robots, we all live together. But we don't believe in that, because we know that like corporations will take over,
I was just
they
gonna
will
say-
take
yeah.
advantage.
So what you're actually saying is, if that, if AI could do all the mechanical jobs, mundane tasks, and we could focus more on the tasks that are more human-like, like emotional, relational, and creativity tasks, right? More of that cognitive aspect. But that requires a change of how we create value, economic value in the world. So that means we might have to change the system. Like today's system, this capitalist system, won't work with that, because AI is there to save costs. So what you're saying is like we have to be in a utopia. Like I think there's this concept called this basic
universal
income. Exactly. And so it's more of a socialist model. But then you would have to transform the way you create value from a global perspective, government perspective, for that to happen. So it won't be, otherwise it won't work, right? Otherwise it needs to be, it's not just the AI, it's just a whole complex ecosystem for that's allowed to work. Yeah.
And then it means like, again, back to the point, like we as humans, we don't trust how another human will take advantage of the AI, especially if we are not the ones to develop it. We know that like world's richest people like Elon Musk and others are like investing into the technology to take kind of advantage, cut costs, replace people, rather than just having this grand promise. I think like religions do a great job by promising this like eternal heavens where you don't have to work and there will be like a milk rivers and beautiful people all hanging around. Like why? I think like as you mentioned, like in Japan, it was like a kind of a positive note,
Yeah.
and people really kind of carried along with that positive
Yeah.
note. And I think, like, do you think that we can change that narrative at this point, or it's lost?
Do you mean like changing the narrative in terms of?
Kind of altogether reimagining how AI can better help us rather than take
Yeah,
over.
yeah. I call this humanizing AI, and but then it starts with the fundamental idea of you have to think about. Remember, technologies is a means to an end. It's not the final solution, and human behavior, as we've seen throughout history, has not always been for the better. We have because human behavior, greed, jealousy, anger, all of those emotions affect human behavior. So when you say I can't trust a human, that makes sense, right? We find it even hard to trust each other. To say that we're actually going to be using technology in a good way starts with philosophy. I think we need to go back to philosophy, to ancient philosophy, and help us to inform us how we should be moving forward. But that's where, we need to move away from what I call the profit motive or the power motive. We need to focus more on the purpose motive, if that makes sense. Let's go back to the purpose. Why are we using this technology? If we want to use it to better humankind, then that should be the ultimate goal. But the problem is the moment the profit motive or the power motive, I want to use AI to control you, right? That's when bad things start to happen. And you're losing this humanizing of AI tremendously. So it's fundamentally, how do we come up with a framework to say, this is how we build AI, this is how we use AI for the bettering of humankind? But we already know that that's not always going to happen. But we need to be active about that, right? We need to be intentional about that if we really want to change things. Otherwise, that's why we're at such an important crossroads. We're at the crossroads where we're saying we don't know which direction to go to. And that's why all these kind of Elon Musk and all these big AI evangelists are saying, let's slow down. Let's slow this down. Let's think about this, right? Before it's too late.
That's true. But also, like, I was thinking, we are fearful of AI because, like, possibility of losing jobs and this
Yeah.
economical aspect.
Yeah.
But if you look at us like humans,
Yeah.
2-3 years ago, Web3 and crypto was big. People were paying millions to buy some NFTs.
Yeah.
And they lost that millions, 90% down, market is down. And people are not that much angry, and there's still people in the industry. Casinos, been there for ages and ages and
Yeah.
ages. People gambled
Yeah.
from Sumerians till today.
Yeah.
And people are kind of not afraid of losing. But do
Yeah.
you think like people are afraid of losing to the technology?
Interesting. So when we gamble, when we throw money into, let's say, a slot machine, or when we gamble with cryptocurrencies or NFTs, and we lose money, then it's a gamble. It's a risk. So you tag a risk towards something that you've invested in. I lost money in crypto as well, right? But I look at it and it's like, yeah, too bad. It was a risk. I look at it as learning money, right? I learned something from it. Instead of going to school, I learned through my own experience. But when it comes to, for example, losing your job, it's not a gamble. It's because you've maybe invested your whole life. Think of doctors that, they don't become doctors, like fully independent doctors until they're 31, 32, sometimes 29 at youngest, sometimes surgeons, 40. So you've invested your whole life and your whole career to create this identity. Because remember, work is not just your job that you do. You identify as an individual to that job. And all of a sudden AI comes in, and if it replaces you, it doesn't replace your job. It replaces who you are psychologically. So if we know that, we know the psychological effect is creating this fear, maybe that's where we go back and say, let's use this technology not to replace, but to amplify. And again, it's just a change of perspective. So I think that's where there's a big perspective in terms of, I took a risk and I knew I took a risk, whereas this is me, my establishment, who I am, and now comes this AI and tells me, you're not going to be there. Take, for example, now what's happening in the US with the screenwriters and the actors. They're protesting for the first time in, I think, 64 years, I saw yesterday on the news. Why? Because they're now asking actors for their AI to be created or their image to be created, get paid one day, and then these production studios can use your AI for a lifetime for whatever purpose they want. And that's where I kind of feel it's unfair. That can feel, because you can imagine you've dedicated your whole life to this, and now all of a sudden AI comes in and takes over your public image, right? and can be used for making
Then,
money.
then does this go like to a question of like ownership? Because I'm sure if you
Hmm.
told the actor that you will still own, I don't know, that millions,
Yeah.
but you just need to work one day, everyone would be very happy. Because if you owned all the profits the same way you did,
But they're not, because because the AI is being used for cost reduction. So because it's being used for cost reduction, now they're saying actors are so expensive, we'll pay you one day and then done with you. And we'll just use your AI for everything that we want to
then
use. We
problem
won't
is
pay you.
not the AI. Problem is what we are doing with it, right? It's the
That's
same
what I
like
was
a
saying,
nuclear
yeah.
energy.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
create like
yeah.
a nuclear station and
Right.
take the power entire city, and
Yeah.
then boom,
Yeah.
and it's not there.
So then the technology is a means to an end, but it depends on how you use it. So again, it's the motivation that's been driven by the person.
Like,
Yeah.
what's your take on like understanding who is who? Because even like before all this ChatGPT, for 3 years, 3 4 years back, there were these companies who create artificial, like not even avatars, like real human looking
Yeah.
profiles on social media, promoting them, all artificially generated images,
Yeah.
even doing branding deals.
Yeah.
You don't understand if it's like human on that other end
It's
or
getting
not.
better, hey? Yeah. The deep fake. Yeah. Yeah.
With
Yeah.
deepfakes, you don't know who's saying what.
Yeah.
Like, how we will understand who is human, who is not.
Well, look, deepfake, for all the technical nerds listening right now, is it uses a technology called a discriminator, right? It's a architecture, and it kind of takes real life and it creates its own one, and it just keeps on getting better, right? That architecture, and so the images get better to the point that you can't tell the difference anymore. Now that's there. How do you differentiate that? How can you tell if something's fake or not? That's going to be a very big problem now moving into the future, right? That's definitely going to be an issue. Yeah.
Because I think, like, you know, this checkbox on
Yeah.
the website that says, like,
Yeah.
I'm not a robot.
Yeah.
Like, what will be that checkbox?
Where you have
Like,
to
what,
indicate.
What do you,
yeah,
what
yeah.
do you
like,
think, like, one thing is, like,
yeah.
AI can never do that humans do? And that can be, like, that checkbox that, okay, you are not an AI, you are not a robot. Or you believe that they can do anything and everything?
Well, it comes back to what I was saying before, is that today's weak AI has a certain limitation to it. But I think as it will evolve, as neural networks become more advanced, and we're looking now at quantum computing, and again, process power is improving, architecture is becoming more advanced. It won't surprise me if we can start to see more, higher. Well, I don't want to call it higher intelligence, but we're going to see more advanced kind of approaches and usages, to which it becomes even more difficult to see where the difference is. And I think it's going to come to a point with weak AI already kind of fooling us right now that it's real. That's why people freak out. I just want everyone, all the listeners around, to realize it's weak AI. It's really weak AI. It's weak technology. But once it grows and advances, it will come to a point that it is not only going to be able to be more human-like, but it's going to be more intelligent than humans. Maybe not consciously, but it might have its own agenda when we don't even know it has its own agenda, right? So yeah,
Doctor, now you sound scary.
well, no, but that's what a lot of people are like Elon Musk are warning, and Steve Hawkins are warning for, that we're building something that we can't control. I mean, that's, to me, seems ridiculous. But then again, that's human nature. We're not the smartest people in the world. And I think from a psychological perspective, we're limited in our thinking, we're limited in our behaviors, and we're susceptible to biases and whatnot, right? So if we come to this realization that we as humans are weak, we're weak in our abilities, and we think we know everything, we don't. I think that needs to happen, because if we're creating something that's going to be more powerful, you're just basically creating your own guillotine, that will chop off your heads, basically.
It all sounds scary, but I still believe that AI can make us live in that paradise I described, where we don't have to work and free money flows, and we eat a lot of nice food and drink from the milk rivers and live happily ever after. Thank you for the talk, Doctor. And I was your host, Bugar Usizadeh.